A military recruitment debate has erupted into a political war. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. The army has refuted Rahul Gandhi's claims of compensation to slain Agniveer Ajay Kumar. The army says that all rules have been followed and the Agniveer who died in the line of duty has been and will be compensated adequately. However, this entire episode, the clash between the opposition and the government, actually reopens the debate on military recruitment and the new or the relatively new Agnipath scheme. This scheme that allows very limited 4-year terms for men to be recruited under this scheme has been a big bone of contention. We know from a former army chief's book that there was some resistance to it within the military, especially over terms and conditions. There are others who argue that it is about much needed military reform. The political noise threatens to drown out a sane debate. So, very mindfully on this program, we've chosen not to call any politicians, but to call very, very senior, experienced, incisive military minds to talk about whether this scheme actually needs a rethink and a relook. Remember, for political context, the government's own two allies on which it is dependent actually for political survival, have asked for the scheme to be reviewed. Both the TDP and Nitish Kumar's party want this scheme to be reviewed. Through the election campaign, Agnipath, Agniveer was a big talking point for the opposition. They said young men who had hoped to join the army in some cases were now going to fight in areas like Russia and Ukraine instead. We will, of course, look at what the army has said in this particular case of the slain Agniveer Ajay Kumar. But the larger question still remains: has the Modi government made a mistake with the Agnipath recruitment scheme? Does it need a tweak? Does it need a major change, or does it need to be withdrawn in its entirety? Let me introduce our guests on the program today. Joining us is Major General Yash More. He's actually no surprises when I reveal that he's been on record as a critic of this scheme, and we'll find out what he thinks, why he thinks it in a few moments from now. General Shukla is with us. General Shukla has been talking about the need to modernize and keep up with the times, that there are other countries in the world who do follow similar schemes, but should India be one of them, and are we doing it for the right reasons? Admiral Prakash, good evening, sir, is with us, former Navy chief, has a very interesting and compelling argument in the Indian Express, trying to make sense of both sides, trying to find a middle ground and saying that, look, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, why has this scheme been brought in? And if for those who are saying take it back, why are they saying take it back? And also finally joining us is General Zamiruddin Shah, military veteran, former Deputy Chief of the Army. Always good to see all of you. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Admiral Prakash, I will start with you. I'll start with you because you argued in the Indian Express that basically economics cannot be an argument. Economics cannot be an argument either to in a sense advocate for the scheme and say that the pension bill or is too big, nor can it be an argument to stay with the scheme because young men count on it for employment. And that made a lot of sense to me. But given the political noise around it, given the fact that there is very clear differentiation between what an Agniveer who dies in the line of duty and what a regular soldier's family will get, how do you look at the debate around the renewed debate, I should say, around this military recruitment scheme? Admiral Prakash.
Thank you. It's unfortunate that this issue has become a political football with parties trying to, get mileage out of it. But basically, I have argued in that article that national security is about the survival of the country. And if the country doesn't survive a conflict, then economics, etc., have to take a backseat. So to argue that because we can't afford modernization, we can't afford modern hardware, the armed forces need to do something about it. That argument is basically unsound. If we need national security, then the nation needs to find the resources to finance it. That's point one. Secondly, any change or reform in the armed forces should be guided by only one criteria. Does this change or reform enhance the combat capability of the armed forces, or does it degrade? So to my mind, the step which has been taken the form in which it has taken, the Agniveer, is not quite sound. It does by inducting barely trained young recruits into the armed forces to carry out very complex. Currently, it takes anything from a year to 18 months to train a recruit. Then he's inducted into a unit where he's given something called the on-job training. Then after another year or so, he's certified by some experienced person that he's fit to work on a weapon or a gun or a missile or a radar or ejection seat or whatever. In the aviation world, we do not allow a young man near an aircraft because he could either destroy something or harm himself or do something. So to induct young men and women with just bare 6 months of training with a 4-year tenure ahead of them, I'm not going to discuss the benefits and so on. Those are issues that are a separate issue, but purely from the combat capability of the armed forces. First, during the COVID period, we suspended recruitment for 2 years for whatever reason. Then we demolished a whole existing system of recruitment and training and replaced it with something barely, not even tried out. Some trial should have been carried out. There are ways of trying it out. If it works, fine, induct it. So Agniveer or something similar is the right way to go about it to reduce your pension bill. By the way, there are 14-15 lakh people serving in the armed forces today. This expenditure is not going to stop tomorrow. It will only stop when they retire, and not when they retire, when they die. And when they die, their wives will get the pension. So it could be easily 30-40 years before any significant change comes into the expenditure that we are so worried about. So just by inducting Agniveers today in such a hasty manner, we are not going to save money tomorrow or day after. So
Can I
this
can
should
I can I
yeah,
ask you
so,
though?
so some more deliberately and in a calibrated manner. That's all I'm
So,
going to say.
so the idea per se is not what bothers you. It's the jaldbazi, as they say in Hindi, the hastiness, the lack of a pilot, perhaps to test it, the lack of enough application of mind. It was done in a hurry, but the idea per se, 4 years, 30,000 rupees per month, different criteria for a man who dies in the line of duty as an Agniveer and a man who dies as a regular soldier. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, the idea of inducting people with a shorter term and making sure that not everybody who joins will get a pension is a sound idea. That's the only way you can reduce your pension bill. And making their conditions of service is something within our powers. We can make sure that there is no discrimination. After, if two men are in a trench and one guy knows that he's going to be put on the street in 3 years and the other guy is different, so those kind of things can be sorted out. They are not insurmountable. The basic idea of inducting short service people into the armed forces is also sound, but it's the hurry in which it's been done, and it's a lot of rough edges to this whole scheme, which can be sorted out with a little bit of deliberation. That's all.
Okay, let's open it up. General Shah, I have read your pieces, also somewhat critical, but Admiral Prakash doesn't per se oppose the idea. Like, to me personally, maybe I'm a silly old romantic. I've only reported on the military, never been a military person. But the idea of that discrimination disturbs me at an emotional level. Maybe emotion has nothing to do with it. As Admiral Prakash reminds us, the only criteria to measure this should be combat effectiveness. I would, in my naive way, add another question. What about the ethos of the military? Does the ethos of the military not get somewhat disturbed by these two kinds of recruits, two kinds of soldiers within the same military? And I know, of course, short service officers have always been there, but even so, this is very institutionalized. General Shah.
Yes, certainly. I mean, now you've got two classes of soldiers. One is the glorified Agniveers and the good old regulars who came in by the normal method. And these Agniveers, there are certain duties which they cannot be asked to perform. And let me, Barkha, tell you a little about the experience of foreign armies. I went to Argentina last year and visited their war memorial to the Falklands War. They call it the Malvina War. And I asked the colonel there who was guiding me, I said, Colonel, you were in position for about 2 months. How did you allow a British force to come 3,000 kilometers away and drive you out within 10 days? Well, he said, General, our conscripts had no stomach in the fight. Plain and simple. So, this is what I say, conscripts, ill trained, only for 6 months. I hope they do have stomach in the fight. Another thing I'll tell you is the card punching and the short tenures of American forces in Afghanistan and of the Russian forces in Afghanistan. They came in for short tenures. You know the very what happened to them. The Afghans drove them out of the country. So we've got to be very careful. What has not been stated clearly is whether the regimental system, which is the strength of the army, will it be retained or not? There have been lukewarm, uh, you know, um, statements. Okay, no, no, we are not touching the regimental system. I'm afraid that over a period of time, these will be touched upon. Now, the ethos of the army is cultivated not by training somebody for 6 months. It comes over a long period of time, and that can only come if you have regular soldiers. Let me give you the example of short service commissioned officers. Why was their tenure increased from 5 to 10 years? There must have been some reason. Okay, now let me tell you from my personal experience. Another reason is we are decreasing the age profile. Not at all. They are taking recruits from 17 to 21 who are 10 plus 2. Barkha, let me assure you, I've been in combat. I've been spent most of my life in insurgency areas. I found that physical toughness, though important, is not as important as mental strength. And I found soldiers between the age of 25 to 35, they are physically fit, they are mature, and have got mental strength. So this thing about decreasing the age profile, I don't think carries much water.
So, unlike Admiral Prakash, are you against the very idea per se, General Shah?
Yes, very much. I mean, what I think it was an ill-considered move, but since it's been adopted, I wrote an article in Combat Magazine. I said, okay, since it's a fait accompli, but let's do something about it. And I said, increase the number of people you retain. Also, make sure that the people who are not retained get employment. I know this was always assured. What happened to the emergency commissioned officers? They were
Yeah.
assured all sorts of things. But let me tell you what happened with my experience. When I was in Nagaland, a battalion, 99 BSF, had a very smart inspector. And I got talking to him one day, and he told me, Sir, I am an EC commissioned officer. I joined in the EC, served 5 years, demobilized. I had no job, but I had to come back as an inspector in the Border Security Force. So, all these statements by paramilitary forces don't hold water at all. They will ultimately do it for a year or two, but ultimately, pressure from within their
Okay.
ranks will be so
Yeah.
great that they'll have to renegade on those promises.
Now, one of the things you've said is it's a fair company. It's here. Well, General Shukla, it may no longer be a fair company because we live in a very different political context where two allies of the government want a review. Now, you have two differing, they sound similar, but two actually different perspectives. Admiral Prakash, who says the reason and the context has to be national security, nothing else, right? You have to have a agile military, a modern military, but the motivation can't be political, the motivation can't be, and the execution can't be hasty. The motivation can't be economic, and the execution can't be hasty. General Shah says, per se, bad idea. You can't create two class of soldiers. I know from our previous conversations, you were an advocate of this scheme when it was rolled out. Do you still remain an advocate? We've had a few years to see how it's playing out on the ground. What do you say now?
I'm still an advocate, but my arguments remain the same. We should not look at Agniveer in isolation, look at it as a part of broader national security reform. And here I'm telling you what, there is status quoism from the military side as also the civil side. Let me give you just one, illustrated with just one example. You see, the overarching concept is what? It is to break the silos, to cross-pollinate, fuse civil military talents and attributes. It is a matter of national security import. So just let me illustrate it with the example that Arun Prakash made. Of course, it should not be for mere financial savings. What use is financial savings if there is no combat effect left? But should it be of cost optimization? Yes. So let me just illustrate. While I am a proponent of Agniveer, I am one of the loudest voices which is saying we should increase defense spending. Now, when I say enhance defense spending, the civil component of the polity doesn't agree with me. Now, let me give you an example why we should do it. This year, China enhanced its defense budget when compared to last year by 7.2%. It is doing so when its economy is growing at less than 3%, 2%, some say half. Is China callous? Why is it spending more on defense when its economy doesn't allow it? We are growing at 7% and we can't even commit 2% of our GDP to defense. Now, how is it linked to this argument? I'm saying that, and firstly, see, this Agniveer scheme applies differently to the three services. So I'll give you the examples of the army, why we need to do it. So now when I say enhance defense spending, no economist in the country agrees. Why should you not enhance defense spending? When we talk of reform within the armed forces, there are once again disagreements. So it is not of financial savings, it is of cost optimization. So what am I saying? I'm saying that whatever you can save by way of cultural changes, structural transitions, you please do it. And Agniveer is one of the modes of doing so. And where should this money go? I'm saying you commit 0.25% of the GDP, which should be about $25 to $30 billion over 3 years, and give a diktat to the chiefs that not one penny along the LACLC, because that's where all our money is going. You need to raise a space force, a cyber force. What happened on 14th April, which enabled Israel to protect the skies? Do we have anything of that kind in place? So when the world is changing so dramatically in the national security space, it seems to be, what is seemed to be made out as if Agniveer is the only issue on earth. It is not the only issue. Now let me just, engage with some of the other arguments with Admiral Arun Prakash. Are we in a hurry? I have personally witnessed to the Prime Minister over 5 to 6 army commanders conferences saying, please come up with your own schemes of savings. Come up with your own schemes. When we couldn't do anything, we couldn't agree on anything, then this scheme was proposed, partly by the political class, but I've heard General Rawat talk about it. General Rawat at one time was a great opponent of it. So I'm saying in concept it was forward-looking. Does it need to be tweaked? Just 1 minute, Barkha. Please tweak it. So this argument about hurries. May I make just one more point and then I'll cede the floor to the others. You see, this is going to happen with all change. I was member of the DGPP. I was a DGPP member of the CDS committee and all. T-1, 60% of the armed forces were not for CDS DMA. So should we not have had CDS DMA? And if all these arguments are going to be settled in political echelons, I'm afraid none of these professional technical arguments will get along. In the past, the CDS was sabotaged by one force. We know who did it. And the same thing will happen in theater commands. So I'm saying that we cannot be locked in status quoism. You have to change. Agniveer is one of those. Whatever problems it has, they can be done away with. But it has to be seen in the context of the larger national security.
Okay, before I come to General Yashmore and to Admiral Prakash, you mentioned General Naravane. Now, his book, we're still waiting for the full edition of the book, more because of references to China. The book seems to have been withheld for security reasons. But in the public domain, we do know what General Naravane said about Agnipath. And we have some of those excerpts on our screen. The army wanted 75% retention in Agnipath scheme. The army initially did not agree with the compensation and so on, right? And that when the plan came, he actually says that we in the army were taken by surprise. Later, we were told that this was a scheme that came from within the military. That's not what General Naravane said. So if you just have a quick comment, since you mentioned him, General Shukla, and then I'll go on to General Yashmore.
See, firstly, just last week, he made another comment. by which he seemed to be welcoming the Agnipath scheme. He said it's so good, it must be introduced in the paramilitary. See, I don't want to get into a one-on-one with General Ravne, but I do know that General Rawat was talking about it. General Ravne was talking about it. I, as the army commander, was tasked to analyze the Agnipath scheme in its training dimension. I've done it. You asked my chief of staff, General Sandhu, in the first presentation he made to me in the army's context, he said was wonderful. One of the reasons I'll give you, the army was taking a trained driver and training him for 3 years. Can we afford such luxuries in today's day and age? Take a trained driver and train him for 3 years. So we are just tweaking that. Then we found that no army, in the world trained for more than 25, 26 weeks. So we said, compress the time frames, and whatever savings you have, if you put it into technology. Now, this is basic training. This certainly doesn't apply to what Admiral Arun Prakash was saying, aviation training, that is advanced. A pilot and technicians will be changed for a longer duration. So it's a matter of great nuance. In 3 such large services with so many trades, there will be not one size which fits the bill. Achha, if you don't have Agniveer, just one last point. Does the army have any proposals to save money? I can give you 5, 6, but even those there will be great oppositions on. So somewhere you have to save money, and that money will go into a space force, a cyber force. Do we not need this stuff? That's my whole argument.
Okay, let me take your question to General Yashmore, who is like you are a known advocate. He's a known critic of the scheme. General Yashmore, please pick up General Shukla's point that cost optimization opportunities were given. That money should be rechanneled into upskilling, into getting on with technology that China and other countries are moving towards. You can't be penny wise, pound foolish, or the other way around. What would you say?
I think, Barkha, all these arguments have come up after the scheme came like a bolt from the blue. Nobody had an idea. The body language of the chiefs when they were told, "Aajo, announce karna hai ye." Even the Raksha Mantri's body language, I don't think even he was convinced. It came from top. Initially, whatever General Naravne, General Rawat was talking about, 1000 log आएंगे, tour of duty. वो हम भी सुनते थे ऐसे आएंगे और ऑफिसर्स आएंगे यूनिफॉर्म में ये वो that was going on. Okay, let's get some people, they will carry the image of the army and all. It was that much. Even if you had to do it, we could have got 1000 5000 people, test bedded it. मैं ना 2-4 बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें बताऊंगा बरखा, क्योंकि प्रॉब्लम क्या है ना, we analyze, good China, Space Force, this, that. Finally, if the man who is going to be your boots on ground is unhappy, you can't do anything. We are seeing it in Ukraine. We are seeing it. IDF is buying it in with Gaza. The Israel military is fed up of Netanyahu says कि यार बंद करो ये लड़ाई. Because see, अब क्या हो गया अग्नि ये स्कीम आने से, जो the rural youth, the strongest and the best young boys in rural India, जिनकी ये तमन्ना थी यार फौज की वर्दी पहने, वो सब के सब thank you very much. Now army is the last choice of the young boys from the villages. I'm making a very profound statement, but because मैं गांव से जुड़ा हुआ हूं यार, मैं जाता रहता हूं गांव में, बच्चे मेरे साथ जुड़े हुए. So suddenly those boys were running on the roads. At least 2-3 years they were preparing, they were doing this, that, so that they were away from drugs and negativity. कुछ भर्ती हो गए, कुछ नहीं हो गए, they would find something else. So big change. Army is no longer. Second thing, very important thing, which our senior officers just have no idea about it probably, is unit cohesion. Barkha, unit cohesion आज अग्निवीर की जो है, they are taunted, their sarcastic remarks. एक सेक्शन के अंदर, can you believe, will the अग्निवीर, उसको पता है मेरे साथ वाला अगर परमानेंट हो गया मैं चले जाऊंगा. We are attacking the very cohesion of an infantry platoon and section. Barkha, कैसे ये लोग, मैं तो infantry commissioned हूँ, mechanized और armor में काम किया मैंने. I understand a tank crew, if there are 2 Agniveers and 2 permanent, how are they going to gel in combat or even in peacetime firing and things this like that. And the third point I want to make, unit cohesion की बात करो, बड़ी चीजें रहने दो, space force, this force, that force, money optimization, China and all. I would read that later. Unit में क्या हो रहा है? What about your, it takes 7 to 8 years एक सिपाही को टैंक कमांडर बनने में, BMP कमांडर बनने में, 2 फीती लगा के 6 बंदों को कंट्रोल करने में, 7 to 8 years of training, 4 साल ना कोई कोर्स करा सकते.
But आपने कहा कि army is now the last choice of boys in villages, but recruitment numbers don't bear that out. I'm not saying I'm a fan of this scheme. I'm on record saying I'm not. So I should declare my bias. I should declare my bias honestly in this conversation. But But General Yashmore, the numbers show you that there is still massive line of young men lining up to be recruited
Yeah,
under the scheme. So how do you say the
absolutely.
army is the last choice?
No, you know why? इतनी गुर्बत और गरीबी हमारे देहात के अंदर, या
Hmm.
तो डंकी रूट से बाहर जा रहे हैं, दे आर रेडी कि चल 4 साल ही सही यार, 4 साल ही सही, उसके बाद शायद एक उम्मीद की किरण है, परमानेंट हो जाएगा, ना तो शादी करा सकता 4 साल, 30 दिन की छुट्टी। आप कैन यू इमेजिन दिस, यू आर सिटिंग इन द्रास एंड कारगिल, हम लोग उस एरियाज में रहे हैं ना, लेह लद्दाख में, वहां अग्निवीर ओनली 30 डेज लीव, परमानेंट सोल्जर 90 डेज लीव, ये मतलब एम्पैथी कहां चलेगी हमारी? ये हाउ डिड वी एग्री टू दीज कंडीशंस? 30 days leave. So many Agniveers you see on my timeline on YouTube, you will start crying when you see serving Agniveers lamenting their angst on this thing कि साहब 15 दिन 6 महीने में घर जाऊंगा। मतलब क्या हो गया हमारे को?
I'd like to share in Uttar Pradesh, albeit at a political rally of the opposition, I met a young man who said ये scheme ने हमारी जिंदगी खराब कर दी है, अब हमसे कोई शादी नहीं करना चाहता. You mentioned this. Somebody actually said this to me.
बरखा तो can't marry. कोई नहीं आता लड़के के घर में, जब पता लगता अग्निवीर है साइड में हो जाते हैं कि यार यहाँ तो जाए, लड़की दे ही नहीं सकते इस घर में, परमानेंट होगा फिर।
But let me bring in Admiral Prakash and then the others. Admiral Prakash, if economics is not to be a criteria by itself to bring in this scheme, providing employment to young people also cannot be the burden of the military. That is not the role of the military. As you have said, national security has to be the only criteria. Now, you've heard differing perspectives here on how that might or might not be hit. Since you do not reject the scheme or the idea per se, what would have been a better version of this program?
Well, there was a time when color service wasn't 17 years. I mean, not too far back, 7, 8 years. So this scheme can be optimized by increasing the training period. Now people talk, General Shah was talking about conscripts. We don't have conscription in India. They are all volunteers. So that question doesn't arise. Secondly, people have said that you can train youngsters in 6 months in other countries. Well, other countries may do it, but in India, even a high school 10 plus 2, I meet some of them. A 10 plus 2 graduate doesn't mean that he will be able to comprehend whatever training the armed forces require him to have. So 12 to 18 months is the optimal period. So tweak the system, increase the training period to whatever the armed forces want to suffice for the man to enter a ship or a submarine or even an infantry battalion. Even infantry battalions have battlefield radars and thermal images, and they're pretty technical. That's one. No conscripts. We cannot train an Indian youth in 6 months. Thirdly, increase his color service to 7, 8, 10 years. After all, you need non-commissioned, you need Lance Nayaks, you need Nayaks, you need Havaldar, you need JCOs. I mean, a Subedar Major is made in 30 years plus. You need to fill all those ranks. So you can't ignore all that. So the reform is required. We need to, I mean, OROP was given. Of course, the veterans made a lot of noise, but the government gave it not through their kind-heartedness, because it probably got them votes. So now they're coming back. People are coming back and saying that OROP is a big hit on the budget. Yes, it may be. So there are many ways of economizing, but this was possibly the worst way of saving money. Now compare the armed forces with the paramilitary forces. They join at the same time. They serve till 60. Each one of them serves till 60. So he's serving for 30 years more than a Jawan. And when he retires, he's got a full pension. Jawan currently retires at 35 or so. He gets half his pension. And in my own personal experience, having pleaded with various authorities, it's laid down that they will absorb so many percent this, that nobody wants the paramilitary forces say that you are ruining the career prospects of our people. Why should we take your people? That would have been the most logical. You can make a Jawan serve for 7, 8, 10 years, then transfer him to the paramilitary forces where he can serve till 60 and go home with a pension. So there are ways of saving. We must save money. The army must reduce its boots on the ground. That's not the way. Of course, Yashmore is very passionate about, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. But those are reasons that we have to take into consideration. So there are ways of saving money.
But you don't have a problem with the two class of soldiers, with the unit ethos that both General Shah and Yashmore sir are speaking about.
I suppose in the army it could be a problem, but if you extend, I mean, even now people leave after 15 years. I mean, in the Navy, the moment a sailor earns his pension, he goes out and joins a bank or something. Similarly, it must have been in the army in the old days, 7, 8, 10 years. But you extend the period, and camaraderie will form, and people will learn to live with it.
Okay, General Shukla, you wanted to come in? Yeah, General Shukla.
Yash was saying, he was, suggesting that this Agniveer is an elitist argument. ये बात सही है, हम भी गांव के हैं भाई, हम भी जानते हैं गांव शाव में क्या हो रहा है. 2 महीने पहले मैं अपनी यूनिट गया, and you please believe me, CO downwards, everybody was pleased. You check it out, 61 medium. The Agniveers are, after this thing has happened, they are the best chaps coming. I thought I was the only chap. I checked with 5 to 6 course mates. On the ground, everybody is happy. जो तीसरा ये argument है ना, that देखो space is elitist. If we had space capacities, गलवान नहीं होता. Space capacity उस platoon को चाहिए, उस company को चाहिए. It is not elitist capacity. I just would humbly like say this. Fourth, let us take this thing about cohesion. We are all from army units. Yash is from an army unit. So is General Zedu Shah. हम NDA वाले होते थे, IMA वाले होते थे, Short Service Commission वाले होते थे. क्या officer ethos में कोई फर्क होता था? Kabhi short service would do better than you. In my course, a direct entry did better than all of us. All of us. So the regimental ethos subsumed all this. So jo Agniveer or jo regular aadmi wahan pe, it is not that they are, it is a meritocratic system of retaining talent. It is a fair thing. Sabko pata hai ki fair hai. 100 mein 50 chune jayenge. Today, a chief minister cannot choose his DMs. UPSC choose karta hai. Abhi CO ko 100 mein 50 choose करने के का मौका मिल रहा है. Having said all this, I keep saying it. We must put the test of operational efficiency every time. And can we not trust our chiefs, our CDS to do even this much? अगर वो ये भी नहीं कर सकते तो फिर वो किस काम के? We must trust them that when a scheme has come, I refuse to believe this, that a scheme can be dumped to the opposition of chiefs and CDS and nobody will say anything to it. No, they may not be in 100% agreement. Admiral Arun Prakash has been the chief. I would have always trusted him to put his foot down. So here, assumption ki bhai, they are all helpless and a absolutely useless scheme is being thrust down everybody's throat is not only not true, is an unfair argument.
Let's pick up General Yashmore, and then I'll come to you, General Shah. The episode that triggered this renewed debate, right? You have an Agniveer from Punjab, Agniveer Ajay Kumar. He dies in a landmine blast in the line of duty. And suddenly we have this political storm over the compensation due to him. After a lot of back and forth, the army actually refutes the claim that are made by Rahul Gandhi on his compensation, and they release numbers of their own. The family now says, yes, we have received 98 lakhs, about 67 lakhs that are still to come from the army, have to come. The army says it will come very soon. We have some idea of the breakup of this as well. We know that a bulk of it has come from group insurance. So far, jo unko paisa mila hai, has come from group insurance and has come from the State Bank of India. And the ex gratia and the other benefits are now going to come from the army. But मैं उनका स्टेटमेंट भी प्ले करूंगी. द फादर ऑफ अग्निवीर अजय कुमार वो कहते हैं लेकिन हमारा बेटा भी हीरो है, उनको वो सेम इक्वालिटी क्यों नहीं दी जाती, हमारे परिवार को लाइफ लॉन्ग पेंशन क्यों नहीं मिलती? व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस? What is the difference in the way my son died and in the way that another soldier may have died? Lifelong pension is not there, disability pensions are not there. There are these differences. Let's talk about this episode as an example.
See, not only this, there have been a couple of more incidents, including, self-inflicted, couple of incidents which we know of Agniveers. Because, Barkha, jab tak josh hai, theek hai, because there's so much of PR that worked. The 3 stars were going for the passing out parade. I know a naval chief went to see the passing out parade. All TV channels are covering Agniveer training. So we created this thing कि यार बहुत इसमें ट्रेनिंग चेंज हो गई है, बहुत यंग लोग आ रहे हैं, सडनली बहुत अच्छे आ रहे हैं, पहले नहीं आ रहे थे. मैं मतलब this okay, it was all optics and all, one could see through it. But But देखो Ajay Kumar का, I don't want to go into what army group insurance, so we all pay for it and we get it. Banks, we have MOUs with all banks. They're ready कि तुम खाता खोल दो and we will give you this compensation. All banks, not only SBI, all the private banks are also so keen that army officers and soldiers get their pay in their banks कि they are giving us insurance of 40-50 lakh rupees. There's a competition among banks. उन्होंने दिया कुछ पैसा. We will not. It's a ping. It's very unfortunate कि we're discussing money on death of a soldier.
But unfortunately, sir, we have to, because one of the big fault lines in this conversation is what happens if an Agniveer dies in the line of duty. So can you please explain this to lay people who don't understand this? You know, the fact you said group insurance का पैसा हम खुद देते हैं. So this 44 lakhs from group insurance.
We pay. There's no insurance by the army. We pay for our own insurance.
नहीं, तो ये जो इस परिवार को मिला है, ये who has paid this 44 lakh group insurance? I don't understand it.
Frankly, I don't know the details. I don't even if, but really I don't know the numbers and breakup. I have not read because it didn't appeal to me कि यार हम ये discuss कर रहे हैं compensation. It was really actually unfortunate कि ये compensation इतना बड़ा दे.
बन गया है ना sir, बन गया है ना ये debate. अब मैं क्या करूँ?
बन गया है. मैं ये बात बता दूं. ये जो पेंशन की बात थी ना बरखा, हमने बहुत नौजवानों को जाते हुए देखा, वीरगति को, उनके परिवार को ना, मेरा अपना ब्रदर इन लॉ डाइड एज अ यंग कैप्टन 110 मीडियम रेजिमेंट एंड his parents mother died just year back. She was every month जो पेंशन आती थी ना, कहती थी यार बेटे ने मुझे ये पेंशन दे दी बुढ़ापे में. बहुत बड़ी बात है बरखा. ये सिपाही को अगर 30 मिलती है, 40 मिलती है, जिस भी उसमें, दिस पेंशन गेटिंग टू पेरेंट्स, you know, or to the wife or to the children is amazing. We don't know the impact of this. ये सबसे बड़ी बात है. इसलिए अगर आप 7-8 साल कर दो, जैसे एडमिरल अरुण प्रकाश कह रहे थे, then gratuity भी मिल जाएगी, आपको एक्स सर्विस में स्टेटस भी मिल जाएगा, मेडिकल बेनिफिट भी मिल जाएगी, and if you die on line of duty, I think then Agniveer or no Agniveer, we must pay the family, the parents pension till the time they're alive. इतना हमारा देश कर सकता है. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है कि हर महीने उसको याद दिलाना तुम्हारा बच्चा जो है वीरगति को प्राप्त हुआ था, जहां पे. So I think there we are, we spent so much of money on so many things. I think discussing money on death of soldiers is the last thing we should be doing as a nation. मुझे बहुत अफसोस है कि इस बात.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more, but it is the reality of the current political fault line. So I can't pretend it's not happening. I know General Shukla, you wanted to come in, but General Shah and then General Shukla, and then I want to play out the statement of the father of this young man who's actually said, "Mere bete pe rajniti mat kariye," because he's now overwhelmed. You know, he's like every politician from all parties is now calling him. Think of him. But General Shah. General
Yes.
Shah? Yes.
Yes. General Shukla brought out about, increasing the defense budget. I was deputy chief and we tried many times to increase it, to make it even 2% of GDP. There's not a chance at all of increasing it. However, we can save money by the pension load of the defense civilians. That should be taken off from the defense budget. That way we can save about 1/3 of the money which is spent on pensions. So this is one of the way, but increasing the budget, I'm afraid we will not get anywhere. I would like to tell you that the soldier.
We just lost General Shah there while he was making a comment mid-sentence. So General Shukla, if you wanted to come in anyway, and then he'll reconnect. Go ahead, General Shukla.
There are 2 to 3 issues. One is what Yash is saying. I agree with him 100%. And if I read that ADGPI statement right, they are saying that Agniveer or a regular soldier, those who die in combat circumstances, will get the same emoluments. So combat circumstances, there will be no difference.
But the family doesn't, sir. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Jahan tak mujhe samajh aayi hai, we can come out of this, please. The family does not get lifelong pension even if somebody dies in the line of duty.
Matter. We are saying the emoluments, on death.
But Yash sir is saying that if someone dies in the line of duty, give his family lifelong pension.
Let me.
Yes.
The other issue which he's saying about self-inflicted wounds. So self-inflicted wounds, वो servant soldiers को भी वो benefits नहीं मिलते हैं. But one thing is very clear, कि in combat situations, if somebody lays down his life, he should get exactly what a regular soldier gets. And my understanding is that will happen. This 75-25 is also being tweaked to 50-50. So these tweakings are happening. And they have to happen. You take it from me, if they haven't happened, they will happen. But see, the larger issues, I'll just get to the defense spending, just 1 minute. Iska to humko dhoondna hi padega. China, America's defense budget is 3 times that of China's defense budget. China's defense budget is 3 times that of India's defense budget. Why is it that Beijing is, there is displacement anxiety in Washington from Beijing, and there is no displacement anxiety in Beijing from India? Same defense budget differentials. Baki hum koi change nahi karenge. Theater command, cultural transitions. This is the point I'm making about status quo. Just let me 30 seconds. America has got a full regular army. Post-Vietnam, that is the thing they have come to. $950 billion. 800 bases, 11 aircraft carriers. Look at what happened to them in Afghanistan, Ukraine. So it is neither money, it is not neither these, full pension and all that benefits. None of this will work. You need a combination of measures: cost optimization, HR reform, technology. Everything has to come. We pick one argument and debate it to death. I've been urging you, Barkha, for very long. Let's have a debate on national security challenges, China, in those kind of things. What emoluments this gentleman is to get, Ajay Kumar, are very important, but that does not lie at the heart of national security. There are far different issues.
Yeah, Janusha, we lost you while you were speaking. If you want to just complete your point, you said it's a hopeless attempt to get, percentage defense spending to increase its percentage of GDP. Go ahead.
Yes. See, there are other priorities besides defense. I know defense should be the most important, but there are very great considerations for allocation of a defense budget. One question which I'd like to ask is, and I would like to ask General Shukla, why wasn't this scheme tried out in the paramilitary forces? Why was the army? I mean, I stick by the maxim, if anything that works, don't meddle with it. So this should have been tried out in a small scale and primarily for the paramilitary forces. Why the army?
General Shukla, if you want to quickly respond, and then I have to start taking last comments. Yeah.
Absolute honest answer. The first time I heard of this was from General Rawat, and the term used was what Yash was saying. What was that, Yash? That term? Agniveer se pehle
Tour of duty.
Yeah. So it was being bounced around. The second time I hear General Naravne announcing this in the Army Commanders Conference, saying, people from colleges and all want to come for 5 years, stay for a while and go. And to me, it appeared it had his absolute sanction. The third, I'm asked as Army Commander RTRAC to analyze the scheme. We analyzed it under 3 heads. One is intake, one is in-service training, and one is exit. Now, in intake, we found, there are a lot of changes needed to be done in the Army. Customize them to role, to the trade, nuance it, a whole lot of things. So that was one part of it which was done. In-house, we gave it to a study, and I remember Sandhu and all, first presentation telling me, sir, it's a lovely scheme, this is what we can save, and replace this with technology, not one size all, and all that. Now, the only issue is of exit. Now, exit is a very good issue. What was happening pre-Agniveer? There is 10% reservation everywhere. Arun Prakash was mentioning, I see it in UPSC. For servicemen, the rules are tweaked so that ex-servicemen don't get it. It goes to civilians. Within the arms, the rules are cleverly tweaked. For qualifications, they go to EME, they go to ASC, not to infantry armor RT. Even in the pre-Agniveer thing, this was not happening. Now, I'm telling you today, when the political capital is so high, so many people have given assurances, Mahindra, ye, wo, and all that, the chances of exit succeeding are far higher. And once that, let me give you an example. 50 Agniveers land up in Surat, where there are a whole lot of industries, and they have to choose 25 people. Barkha, I'll be mad as an industrialist or as a small company owner if I don't pick 10 of these Agniveers. Today, in many startups, private sector, you'll be surprised the number of Havaldar, sergeants, this, that, and the other. We undervalue our chaps. They don't need this pension.
We don't undervalue our.
One last point. If it is such a big challenge, just one last one, 30 seconds. Today, if the CDS, 3 chiefs, UPSC and all decide, 5 साल के बाद 50 लोग exit हो रहे हैं, you have 5 years for find jobs for them. You think we can't find jobs for them? We can. We have to do it in a concerted
Sir,
manner. And
I
if
just-
exit also is taken care of, it is a win-win scheme.
I want to say that it's not, you said we underestimate our chaps. We don't underestimate our chaps. We underestimate the civilian world remembering and creating space for soldiers once they're no longer wearing the uniform. We have seen even Kargil, those who fought in the Kargil war, we're on the 25th anniversary. There was a story of one of the Jawans doing the job of a traffic inspector in Chandigarh, sir. So it's the world we don't trust. It's not that we don't trust our chaps, but I'm coming to last comments. I just want to play out the father of this young Agniveer, Ajay Kumar, who died in a landmine blast, who is now utterly confused. He's now saying 98 lakhs mila hai, but I have given the breakup. I'm sorry. It is course to discuss money, but the money has become a big part of the political fight from group insurance and SBI. 67 lakhs ex gratia bhi milna hai. But he says, mere bete ki death par rajniti nahi honi chahiye. Please take a look and we'll take last comments.
नहीं, राजनीति भी करें लेकिन परिवार की सहायता भी करने पे तुले हैं वो राहुल गांधी जी। सही है अपनी अपनी तरफ से, राजनाथ भी सही है, प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी भी सही है अपनी तरफ से, तो सभी सही है। हम तो सही ऑपरेट करते हैं, सपोर्ट करते हैं सभी पार्टियां। हम तो ये कहते हैं भी हमें हमारे बच्चे पे राजनीति नहीं, उनके पैसे का हमें नहीं जरूरत। इन बेटे को जो शहीद का दर्जा है वो मिलना चाहिए, जो बांटी सहूलत है परिवार को मिलती है, सपोर्ट होनी चाहिए सारी तरफ से। हमें सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से ला लो, आर्मी की तरफ से ला लो, मोदी सरकार की तरफ से ला लो, राहुल गांधी की तरफ से ला लो, जो भी हमें सहायता मिलनी चाहिए, जो भी बनते हैं इनकी, जो भी सहूलतें हैं, जो पेंशन वगैरह है, सारा मिलना चाहिए।
Now, what I hear in that, and I'll start taking last comments, I'll start with you, General Yashmore, is कि सब ठीक है, राहुल भी ठीक है, राजनाथ भी ठीक है, मोदी जी भी ठीक है, वो क्या बोलेंगे बेचारे? I can only imagine his plight. But हमारे बेटे को शहीद का दर्जा मिलना चाहिए. Firstly, this term शहीद doesn't exist in the Indian military. So I don't know how to tell our TV channels that this term is not a military term. But he's meaning something else by it, metaphorical. That my son should be treated as the hero that he was, just like a regular soldier would. Two, he's saying pension मिलनी चाहिए. He's got on to that कि भाई आप किसी और के परिवार को पेंशन देते तो मेरे बेटे हमारे को क्यों नहीं? Right? So let's start with last comments. General Yashmore.
उन्होंने बड़ी अच्छी बात कही और मैं आई कैन सी हिज प्रेशर। उनकी स्टेटमेंट, कल भी कोई स्टेटमेंट आई थी, गांव में इतने कैमरे पहुंच जाएं और जिस तरीके की हम राजनीति करते हैं ना, ये वो पीपली लाइव वाली बात है। इट्स रियली फैमिली के ऊपर वेरी सैड दैट वी हैव टू डू दिस। देखो दो चीजें हैं इसमें। मैं तो कहता हूं वे फॉरवर्ड इज रोल बैक ऑफ द स्कीम। ठीक है, वे फॉरवर्ड इज रोल बैक कर लो इसको। देयर इज नो ईगो, सरकारों की कोई ईगो नहीं होती है। एंड देयर आर मेजर फ्लॉज। बहुत चीजें अच्छी हैं जो जनरल राज शुक्ला ने कही हैं। ये हम 10 साल से कह रहे थे, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफ इंडियन आर्मी, कि कुक डायरेक्ट भर्ती करो, ड्राइवर डायरेक्ट भर्ती करो, कंप्यूटर ऑपरेटर डायरेक्ट भर्ती करो, क्लर्क डायरेक्ट। वी आर ऑल अवेयर ऑफ दिस, वी शुड हैव डन दिस। ये रिफॉर्म्स हमें लाने चाहिए एब्सोल्युटली। लेकिन जो है इसको पेंशन and 4 years is too less, and the unit cohesion, that is what my worry is. Rest all, we all need technology, we हमें भी चाहिए, we need to be on ISR में invest करें, space में invest करें.
So you want the scheme per se to be rolled back?
Absolutely, we must roll it back, get back to old recruitment. And बरखा लास्ट में जो 3 लाख जवान 3 साल भर्ती नहीं की, उनकी तो कोई बात ही नहीं करता। उनके साथ कैन यू इमेजिन एनी अदर एग्जाम गेटिंग कैंसिल लाइक दिस? यूपीएससी, एनडीए, सीडीएस कभी कैंसिल किया देश ने? सीजीएल, उनके ऊपर 3 साल भर्ती नहीं की फौज ने, 3 years, and they are just on the verge. उनकी जिंदगी खराब कर दी। they were just waiting to enter air force, navy, group x y, इतनी मेहनत करके one day 22 जून को बोला थैंक यू वेरी मच, पुरानी भर्ती रद्द हो गई और उनकी जिंदगी। अब उनकी क्यों नहीं बात करते? why can't they get another chance? So मुझे उनका भी दुख नजर आता है कि उनकी भी हमें बात करनी चाहिए, who were undone unjustly by the system, कि you can just cancel a government notification कि 3 साल की भर्ती null and void है।
General Yashmore says roll back the scheme. What do you say, General Shah?
Should be rolled back. Look, Barkha, let me tell you that Agniveer, after 4 years service, would be drawing about 40,000 per month. All these promises by industry and the central paramilitary forces will not be honored, I can assure you. They may do it for a year or two. Subsequently, the pressure inside will force them to go back on their words these Agniveers will land up, probably they would not have had time in 4 years to learn another trade, and they would fall back as security guards and drivers. I think that if you don't roll back, at least tweak the scheme, make it 10 years minimum service for the Agniveers, 4 years. Imagine a commanding officer's plight with 25% turnover every year of his command. How will he be able to function? 25% of his battalion getting turned over every year. I think it's a ridiculous thing. I served for 20 years in my regiment and I knew everyone backwards. Will this be possible with the Agniveer scheme? I'm afraid not.
Okay. Roll back, say two voices, if not roll back a minimum of a 10-year service. Before I give Admiral Prakash the last word, General Shukla, you said tweaking is fine. Would your tweaking include basically taking it as the length of a short service commission? General Shukla?
Yeah, I'll make 3 points. One is, look at the profound wisdom of the man. He's saying keep politics out. Modi ji bhi sahi kar rahe hain, Rahul Gandhi bhi sahi kar rahe hain. Look at the great wisdom. दूसरी बात जो ये है, I am for tweaking it. I'm confident it can be tweaked. It has been tweaked. It can be tweaked purposefully. And I'm saying the chiefs, the CDS, all are saying it's working well. All are saying it's working well. There are problems. I've heard them, all of them saying, let's leave it to their wisdom. And the third point is this. You have an option. Scrap it. You will get back to that pension model. 10% vacancies, not one fulfilled. वही होगा उनका हाल भी. Here, tweak it. And I'm telling you, if this scheme starts working with the political capital, all this resistance will crumble. This resistance was the old methodology.
But what would be your sweet spot for the tenure? What is the minimum length?
So presently people tell me 4 is good, but you increase it to 6. I'm not stuck on those issues. Leave that to the CEOs and the chiefs and all that.
Okay.
See, actually 1 minute. This is a very serious point, Barkha. 4 years, 6 years, 75, 25. I out of service can't decide it. Admiral Arun Prakash can't decide it. They are current CEOs, current chiefs. उनके पास कोई wisdom नहीं बाकी है क्या? We should also trust.
Okay. Admiral Prakash, you said this is the worst way to save money. There's a need to do cost optimization, but not like this. There are two, military veterans here actually saying scrapping it would be the first preference. General Shukla vehemently disagrees. Where do you fall between those two stools?
Yes, I think we need something like Agniveer, but not nowhere near its present form. It needs not just tweaking; it needs to be reformatted so that all these bugs are sorted out. The combat efficiency of the armed forces should not be impacted. As for people being happy, for whatever I've heard, it's only hearsay that I think there is a letter from some major authority that Agniveers are only to be employed on sentry duties, and they are to be accompanied by a regular soldier on sentry duties. So where is the confidence in the Agniveer at this? I mean, this is hearsay. I have no authority. So I think the scheme should be there. We need to save money. We need to spend more on capital budgets, but it needs a major reformatting. One other point I want to make is that this article that you referred to was written 2 years ago. I don't think anybody read it then. Suddenly it's come into limelight, and I was quite surprised, I won't say dismayed, to see the number of negative comments about the armed forces. We all believe, we delude ourselves that we are admired and so on.
Sir, trolls have no loyalty. You have to not read comments. You have to not read comments.
I can't tell a troll from a whatever else, but they say that you chaps join the services only for a pension. You want canteen goods. You want to drink whiskey in the evening. I mean, there are hundreds of tweets coming of that nature. So who admires us and who looks up to the armed forces? Where are those people? And who are these people, by the way? Yeah. One last point, Barkha. I think
yes,
we from time to time we take measures to improve career prospects, reduce expenditure. The short service commission for officers was one such measure. It was brought in. People went to court. The courts have ordained that no short service should be converted into permanent commission. So where are we now? The armed forces are not a laboratory for social engineering. Same thing about women. I mean, I agree that women need to be, but is the armed forces the only place to give women a fair chance? What about the rest of the country? So I think it's time you realize that the armed forces may be obedient and they fall in line when somebody cracks the whip, but they are not a place for social engineering, social reform. Let the country and the society look after its own ills.
On that last point about the entry of women into the armed forces, we'll have a separate debate. I'm not going to rise to the debate on that.
I'm not
point.
against it. I'm not against it, but I'm saying it should not have been ordained by the court. The armed forces were willing to do it themselves. They did it
Fair
well
enough.
before the rest of the country.
No, I think that point is well taken. That the armed forces are not a laboratory experiment. It just can't be. And if there's going to be a big change, you test it first. I think on that we can all agree. Admiral Prakash, your column from 2 years ago is so applicable even today. So you should feel happy that it was so sound that it's being quoted years later. And lastly, I just want to say that anyone who says this business about you only want to drink whiskey in the evening, let's stop the canteen, let's stop the pensions, is a troll. I don't care whether they have a name or not, is a troll who is beneath contempt. Thank you very much. General Shukla, do you have your hand up to say something? I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
On one issue, we should pat our backs. I don't think there is any service in the country which can debate such a contentious issue with such equanimity and calm.
Absolutely.
And across generations. On that issue,
absolutely.
Now we will go and have whiskey. Huh?
And cheers to that. Thank you very much, General Shukla, General Shah, Admiral Prakash, and General Yashmore. And to our audience, thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.